The times that my brother and I would go to visit my grandmother, we called Gran. She was my mother's mother. And the first thing we would do when we went into her dining room was to move the dining room table over and reach up into the sky where the chandelier was and see who could touch the crystal ball first. And that measured our height. Needless to say, my brother was older than me, and he touched the crystal ball first, and I was jealous. We would move it back, and that particular welcome to Gran's house was there. But then there came the time when I went to visit Gran by myself. It was just Gran and me. One of the things that I asked her to do, because I absolutely loved the movie Pollyanna with Haley Mills, and I thought it was very positive, and I wanted to be Haley Mills. I wanted to be Pollyanna because she was so positive about everything. And in one of the parts of Pollyanna, there's a scene where Pollyanna is trying to cheer up a grumpy old lady. And what she does is she notices there are rainbows on the walls of the grumpy lady's bedroom where she was supposedly so sick. So Pollyanna starts stringing a string across the window and hanging all the prisms in her room across the room. And rainbows were dancing all over her room. Well, the grumpy old lady couldn't stay grumpy with all that delightful color dancing around her room. And so it completely changed her life. Well, seeing the prisms reminded me of Gran's prisms. And when I told her about it, she said, well, we should hang some. And she took some of the prisms off of the chandelier in our dining room that Nick had used as a measuring stick when we were growing up. And we strung them across the room, dipping just enough to make them move. And she would put on music sometimes. She had a record player. Sometimes she would put on music. But sometimes, and really my favorite times, she would just sing. And she would stroke the prism, and the rainbows would dance all over the floor and all over the ring. And we would put our feet on the rainbows, on the little dots that were rainbows. And we called it rainbow dancing. Well, in time, she needed to move away from that particular house. But because we had this special thing with each other, she saw to it that I got the chandelier, or the prisms from the chandelier, and gave them to me as a gift. And I was quite taken aback by such a gift. And took them home and put them in a special place. Many years passed before I realized what those prisms were going to mean to me and to others in my life. There came the time when it was time for Daniel to go to first grade, and he was nervous for the first time about going to school. He loved school. He had loved preschool. He had no anxiety about my being gone away from him for a while. But first grade, he was a little anxious because he wasn't going to know anyone. And I saw the look of almost panic on his face the first morning of first grade. And I took one of the prisms off the window and I handed it to him. And I said, this is a magic prism, and what you do is you put it in your pocket. And when you get nervous, then you put your hand in your pocket and you hold it, and you realize that who you are is a rainbow person. You bring beautiful colors into the world just by being there, by your smile. Well, he looked at me a little skeptically, but he put the prism in his pocket. And I was very anxious to pick him up that afternoon. And before I could even say, how was your first day of first grade, he was jumping up and down in the back seat saying, it worked, Mama, it worked. Every time I got nervous, then I would reach my hand in my pocket and realize I'm a prism person. And the light, who for us is God, shows through it and makes beautiful colors in the world. And it worked. I realized nobody in the classroom knew anybody either. And so we all became friends, and we liked it. After that time, it became the family tradition on the first day of school for all three of my children to go with a prism from Grand's chandelier in their pocket, with instructions to remember who we are. We are prism people, and God's light shines through us and makes beautiful, beautiful colors in the world. Well, they continue to grow and life moves on, and I wanted them to have their prism that had been their special going to school prism. And I made the decision to give it to them when they got married. So for all three of my children, when they married, the day of their wedding, I gave them their prism so they could put it in their pocket and remember who they are and who they always will be in their marriage, in their work, in whatever it is they decide to be. And the colors from the beautiful prisms would make this world a beautiful place.